Michelle Obama goes to Princeton for free.
Yeah.
And has been in the ruling class her whole life.
Yeah.
And she's still lecturing you about how she's a victim of racism. Hillary Clinton, exact same thing. Goes to Wellesley, spends her entire life in the ruling class, and she's still whining about how she's discriminated against. Why are they doing that?
Yeah. And did you ever see, they'll have like pictures of side by side, but it'll be like pictures of like Jimmy Carter's house and Obama's house.
Exactly.
And it totally represents something about the like corroding of our soul.
In a white neighborhood, you should be required to live in the hood if you're Barack Obama. And
if you're using that card.
You use that card. The only reason you got elected was because of your race. You spent your entire 8 years inflaming race hate in our country, and then you go to Martha's Vineyard, the whitest zip code in the world? Not allowed.
Yeah.
You're not allowed to do that.
Wait, did he really just say that? You could practically hear a pin drop in the studio after this one. Tucker Carlson's guest completely dismantled the mainstream narrative surrounding Obama's legacy, and let's just say, it wasn't pretty. From identity politics to staggering financial gains, this discussion exposed everything, leaving Tucker Carlson visibly speechless. But honestly, are we even shocked? At this point, the hypocrisy is just too massive to ignore. Before we dive into the shocking truths they just uncovered, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into stories the media refuses to cover. Subscribed? Great. Now let's get into it. All right, let's start with a number that might leave you stunned. When Barack Obama stepped into office in 2008, his net worth was estimated at $1.3 million. Not unusual for a U.S. senator. But fast forward to today, and suddenly, he's sitting on a fortune of $70 million. Or more. Quite the upgrade, right? And of course, we're all expected to believe that this massive wealth came solely from book deals and speaking fees. Because, there's absolutely no intricate network of influence, backdoor deals, and financial pipelines working behind the scenes. Right? Yeah, sure. But let's not stop there. Because it's not just Obama. Tucker's guest laid out exactly how identity politics has become one of the most profitable industries in modern history. And guess who's cashing in the most? The Obamas, the Clintons, and the Bidens. They've turned victimhood into a multi-million-dollar empire. Now here's where it gets downright ridiculous. Tucker's guest pointed out something that should have been obvious to all of us. The same people who constantly preach about privilege, systemic oppression, and inequality, they're the ones buying multi-million-dollar estates in Martha's Vineyard and Hawaii.
Barack Obama's campaign in 2008, first of all, it was just leaving how you feel about the guy aside, it was an amazing campaign. It was unlike anything that had ever been run before.
It was genius.
Yes, it was totally brilliant. It was now, of course, it wasn't what they presented it as. It wasn't like a grassroots campaign. It was...
Let's sort of like elect the black guy and get past the race stuff. I loved that.
Well, especially because that was his message.
That was his message. And
let's get past the race stuff.
I love that.
He goes, then I think essentially what happened, and it was around Obama's re-election campaign, this is where things really went off the rails in this country, was that he got in there and continued and expanded all the worst of the Bush policies.
Oh, of course.
And so they almost had nothing to run on, and so they decided to pivot to a culture war instead.
Seriously, Michelle Obama claims she lives in fear for her daughters in America, yet she's dropping millions on luxury beachfront estates. Are we really supposed to believe she's facing the same struggles as everyday Americans? Because last time I checked, the truly oppressed aren't living in $12 million mansions on private islands.
Many of us still live in fear as we go to the grocery store or worry about walking our dogs or allowing our children to get a license. I mean, just imagine.
Aren't your girls driving?
They're driving.
Yeah.
But every time they get in a car by themselves, I worry about what assumption is being made by somebody who doesn't know everything about them. The fact that they are good students and polite girls, but maybe they're playing their music a little loud. Maybe somebody sees the back of their head and makes an assumption. I, like so many parents of black kids, have to, that the innocent act of getting a license puts fear in our hearts.
Now, let's talk numbers, because this is where things get really interesting. Barack Obama commands around $400,000 per speech. Michelle Obama, up to $700,000. And the Clintons? They've pulled in over $230 million from post office speaking deals alone. I mean, seriously, What exactly are they saying in these speeches that's worth that kind of money? Oh, that's right. They're not being paid for their words, they're being paid for their influence. It's a pay-to-play system, and guess what? Regular Americans aren't invited. If you think this is just about sharing ideas and inspiring people, think again. The real fortune isn't just in speeches. It's in book deals, media partnerships, and charitable foundations that somehow never seem to fix anything. Just look at the numbers. The Obamas landed a $65 million book deal right after leaving the White House. The Bidens pulled in $16 million within just 2 years of stepping down. And the Clintons? They turned their so-called charity into a $230 million cash machine. And what do they all have in common? They use their platforms to push division and identity politics, because keeping people divided keeps the money flowing.
I notice a theme here. There are a lot of extremely rich people who are deeply miserable and desperate to have you believe they're victims. What is that?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, LeBron James living in Bel Air, he's a victim. Meghan Markle went downgraded from billionaire to multimillionaire. She's a victim. They want you to know that they're all victims. It's because they're trying to distract us. The truth is that they view us as peasants. They're trying to make it seem like, hey, when the peasants turn against us because they're actually robbing all of them, we don't want them to look at us. We want to make them think that we're one of us. They're not one of us. They're nothing like us. They don't live like us. She has nothing that goes on in her life that is similar to the average American, yet she keeps trying to use her skin color and her complexion as a way to make people believe that she's suffering, and she's absolutely not suffering. And everyone should be aware that if you're watching this and you think that LeBron James and Meghan Markle and Barack Obama and Michelle Obama are oppressed, you are a fool. You have been fooled. They are doing just fine.
But here's the kicker. The same people preaching about equity and justice are the ones profiting the most from shady financial loopholes. They cry about corporate greed, yet they are the corporations. They demand that Americans pay their fair share while quietly funneling their own wealth through tax havens and nonprofits. And they scream about climate change, yet somehow they have no problem flying private to their multi-million-dollar estates without a second thought. See the pattern yet? Because at the end of the day, this isn't about race, oppression, or standing up for the little guy. It's about money, power, and control. And Tucker Carlson's guest just exposed all of it for the world to see. So the real question is, are people finally waking up? Or will the media keep running cover for them while vilifying anyone who dares to speak out? But here's the reality. This cycle will keep repeating unless people start questioning the narrative. The elites have mastered the art of distraction, keeping the public focused on manufactured outrage while they quietly consolidate power and wealth. They want you divided, distracted, and too exhausted to see what's really happening. But the truth is out there, and more people are starting to connect the dots. So the question isn't just whether the media will keep covering. For them, it's whether the people will finally refuse to be fooled. Because at some point, the lies become too big to ignore. Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you found this video eye-opening, hit that like button and subscribe. Your support means everything. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.